young girl, and allowed the parents to circumvent the law. So our point is that if the parents have the right under religion to circumvent the law, they're going to abuse that authority because they're making a decision on behalf of the child. Now, when you look at some of these issues, like where the parents denied medical attention up in, there was a case up here in northern Utah, where they said our religion tells us that this child should not go to a hospital. We don't believe in hospitals. They arrested the parents because it was endangerment of the child. Just because the parents have the religious belief system, in some situations, if it creates peril or threat for the child, the state steps in and says, you as an adult have the right to make that decision, but if you put your child in peril, then it's still child endangerment.
Okay, so if the parent is allowed to circumvent the law, then it's, in essence, them abusing their own children almost.
That would be correct. It's child abuse. And so, I mean, you have different issues. I mean, if I have 3 daughters, if I could choose when, at what age my daughters could have sex, so we'll say 12 years old, I'm going to let her have sex now at 12. I might need a brake job on my car. I may need my engine rebuilt, and there's this guy down the street who likes my daughter, and I could do sex in exchange for favor. I could take pictures of her and exploit her.
You bet.
Any possibilities can happen because parents are not going to always use the best judgment for the child. That's why you have state laws.
Okay, so just to go over, just to make sure it's clear in my head, your sole issue is the underage kids.
That would be correct. That's the only issue. I'm not touching polygamy.
You bet. And that's just because...
It's cohabitation, and I grew up in the 60s, and I came from California. So I didn't practice it, but I was a little young for it. I was in my early teens, but I saw it, and it was just a reality of life. And so cohabitation, I'm not going to debate that one.
Okay, so your sole issue is underage kids, and your feeling is that if a parent is allowed to circumvent the law and say, I will give my permission for something illegal, such as, cohabitation of underage kids, it's child abuse.
That's correct.
And that's where you're coming from.
And to me, that's cut and dry.
Okay.
And if you talk to Stephen Kent, which is your expert up in Canada in child abuse and child exploitation, he just got done. Last Thursday, he was over in the United Kingdom doing lectures. So, I mean, your people in Canada agree with the same thing that our people down here. If you talk to For Kids' Sake, if you talk to Randy Noblet down in Texas, which is another expert in child abuse issues, child exploitation, if you leave it up to the parents to define the law, the parents are in some cases going to violate laws and violate those protections of those kids. So you have to have the state there in order to, or the government there to protect the issues of juveniles and minors. I mean, it's just...
because if you're going against the law, obviously there's going to be trouble.
There's going to be abuses. And if you look at the woman's situation that's down here in southern Utah, her parents decided that this was the best thing for her. And she is an emotional mess right now.
You bet.
And, my situation is very strange here because 90% of the people I'm working with are adult women between the age of 25 and 45 years old. And they are the victims that are coming out of the backside of this religion. And I understand that the girls going into it believe that this is okay and it's right, but they believe it's right because if they don't, they're going to be damned.
So how do they hear about you? How do you said you have about 50 names now.
I have 100 right now.
Or, sorry, 100. That's right. So, how do these people get a hold of you and say, hey, look, this is what's happened to me, I want to fight it?
Well,
do you get your name out there? Or, I don't see how you advertise.
I don't advertise really. What happened was I started from an investigator point of view. I started with the 22 families that were involved in the class action suit.
Okay.
And so I knew there was 22 names of people, 22 families that would be willing to talk because they'd already sued the trust.
And this is the one of Lorraine.
No, this is the 22 family. This was a lawsuit against the trust between 1987 and 1998.
Okay.
And it was decided in the Utah Supreme Court that the UEP Trust did not have the right to evict people from their land unless they were willing to pay compensation for the construction value of the home built on that land. The reason why Lenore's case is different is because it's in the Arizona courts and not the Utah courts.
Okay.
But 22 families spent $1 million over the period of 11 years fighting the trust.
Do you have any information on that I can get faxed down here just so I
can email you. You have an email address.
You bet.
I can email you the entire document.
Perfect.
It's 27 pages long. It's good reading. But then there's all kinds of stuff. And I mean, in terms of the reassigning of families, I don't know if you've covered that one or not.
No.
There's a lot.
It's so difficult to get information down here because I am dealing with Winston. I'm not dealing with
he's not going to give you information.
And he's not going to give anything to me. And in this community, it's so tight. Everything is very tight that nobody really wants to come out and address anything. And you know, because the Creston Valley's been living with this since, you know, since everything has began, you know, so long ago in the 50s, people don't see it as an issue, so nobody talks about it, nobody cares about it, nobody's going to talk about it.
So some people care. I have contacts up in Creston where I've gotten information, but I can't tell you who they are because they're terrified of speaking out.
Which I can understand.
I don't know how big Creston is, but I mean, you know, there's
5,000 people.
5,000. It's pretty small, yeah.
You bet.
I have an approach for getting information that works pretty good, but I don't think it's safe to tell you. So.
No, definitely, I understand that.
But anyway, there are people who are concerned, and if you approach them, there are people who are willing to talk.
You bet. But you started with the 22 families in this class action suit in 1997, 1998.
And from them, it mushroomed off, and they probably talk to people. I have people who are calling me from most of the western states right now.
Okay. How did you get Debbie Palmer's name? She said that you were the one who had contacted her.
Yeah, Debbie and I are in a lot of contact now. Well, I went searching. I had heard that the girls had gone to Canada, and I didn't know where they were up in Canada, and finally somebody gave me the name Creston. And so the only way I could figure out what was up there was to do a basic introduction letter of who I was and what I was looking for. I sent letters to most of the legislators that you have up there in BC. I sent letters to most of the journalists and the press up there, and some other people that I just got email addresses for up there. And from that, I got a reply from Fabian.
Okay.
And then of course, Fabian indirectly gave me Debbie.
Okay.
And then over a period of time, Debbie trusted me enough that we started exchanging issues and information.
Oh, so you were just looking for somebody who had ties with the local community to give you a little bit more of insight of what was going on.
Yeah, because I've had training in investigation, I've taken a lot of the post courses, which is police officer standard training. I'm post-certified in California for investigation of child abuse, investigation of sex crimes, investigation of commercial law enforcement, and hazardous materials. So I've had some law enforcement training. Most of the post stuff comes from the FBI, and so I have a minor background in investigation.
Okay.
But I'm not commissioned. I'm not a police officer.
So
I am a consultant in law enforcement, though. I have another web page on the internet that deals with gangs and graffiti.
Okay.
I'm on the board of directors. We have 500 members. 250 of them are law enforcement agencies.
Oh, wow.
And we're in 18 countries around the world.
Okay. You know, you are tri-state representative for kids in Utah, Arizona, and Nebraska.
And Nevada.
And Nevada. Was it Nebraska or Nevada?
Nevada. The three states that are clustered here.
Okay. And you know, being tri-state rep, is there any other credentials that you're bringing into this? You know, you do have training. You know, you've gone to Justice Institute. You know, you've done a little bit of everything, but currently, you know, in your title, is there anything that, you know, people could say, oh, you know, this is why he's, you know, this is where his credentials fall?
No, my heavier background, if you were to look in the United States and try to find experts in the subject of graffiti, if you look for 10 experts in the United States, I would be listed as one of them.
Okay.
So if you could contact the New York Police Department, you could talk to the New York Transit Police, they're members of our group. We have district attorneys that are members of our group, like Richard Bromley, the district attorney for Maricopa County, which is Phoenix. Mayor Giuliano is a member. It's a mixture of people across the country, so that if you were looking for information on that subject, there'd be about roughly 5 to 10 of us that would come up as names of people who can identify that.
Perfect.
But I deal with issues of gangs, and gangs come in many forms. And I look at this as kind of like a big gang.
You bet. Well, I think a lot... Where do you come in then? You know, what to let, you know, our readers in this area know who are, you know, there are people who are affected in our community.
Economics, Mr. Blackmore has a whole list of businesses, and I have a list of them all.
So what, you know, what should people know of, you know, what you're trying to do, just so, you know, coming from your mouth, so people can't say, oh, he's just going on a witch hunt kind of thing. You know,
my sole issue, based on for kids' sake, are the underage kids. And we have, so there's a situation that I actually gave you in the email that was sent to you, that if a parent is allowed to circumvent the law and say, I'm going to give consent for something that is technically against the law, the bad side of what can happen, we have a woman that's living down here in southern Utah. She's 37 years old now. When she was 13 years old, she lived in Colorado City, and she was dragged off into the sagebrush and raped by a guy that was 22 years old. And what the church decided